Uh-oh. Motherfucking relay. We're covering today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. Lulu Juarez versus Jessica Nery-Plata. A clash of champions dawning on the horizon. Lulu Juarez captured the vacant light flyweight title on November 29th, 2024 with a victory over Yesenia Gomez in Chermudal. Now, it appears a showdown with the former champion Jessica Nery-Plata is imminent, setting the stage for a battle to determine the division's supreme fighter. I think that unified champion Evelyn Bermudez might have something to say about that. Both Juarez and Nery-Plata were at Martes a Café top table discussing their upcoming clash with mutual respect and admiration. The champion Lourdes Juarez stated, "When opportunities arise, you have to seize them. I was presented with the chance to fight for the light flyweight world title and I took it. This highlights the importance of always being prepared and having faith." Regarding Nery-Plata, Lourdes stated, "Now that Jessica Nery, after experiencing a difficult personal situation, is back to reclaim her belt, I'm ready to give her the opportunity to fight for what was once hers."
What happened?
Jessica Nery-Plata stated, "I had to vacate the title because I was expecting a new member of my family. Unfortunately, complications arose and that dream didn't come into fruition. After extensive medical evaluations, I'm ready to return to the ring with the firm intention of once again becoming WBC champion. Juarez versus Nery, coming soon." A miscarriage. She was with child and she was expecting, but unfortunately, she miscarried. That ended up costing her her two alphabet titles, the WBC and the WBA. It used to be that there were only two champions at this weight, Jessica Nery-Plata and Evelyn Bermudez. The four alphabet titles were split between the two. Mauricio Suleiman, WBC president, stated, "Lulu has an approved voluntary defense scheduled for March. The winner of that fight will then face Jessica Nery-Plata. I'm incredibly proud of the mutual respect these two fighters have shown. Without a doubt, Juarez versus Nery-Plata will be a historic match." So they are set to fight, but not right away, which is probably better for Jessica, the former champion, because she hasn't fought in well over a year. It would be wise to squeeze in a little tune-up fight, little gimme fight, to shake the ring rust off before she challenges Lourdes for her alphabet title, the WBC title. Jessica used to hold two. She used to hold that one and the WBA title that has since gone to Canada's own Sarah Bailey. It would seem that Jessica will have the chance to win at least one of those alphabet titles back, sporting a professional record of 30 wins with 2 losses, no draws, 3 knockouts, having never been knocked out in 32 professional bouts. Her record is deceiving because she doesn't have a lot of recorded knockouts, but she actually is a very strong puncher, one of the strongest in this entire weight class, but perhaps not the strongest finisher.
Lourdes.
Lulu Juarez of the Fighting Juarez Sisters sports a professional record of 37 wins with 4 losses, no draws, 4 knockouts, having been knocked out once in 41 professional bouts. The current reigning WBC light flyweight champion, who's currently on a 3-fight winning streak.
She suffered 2 losses to Ashley Macias.
Rebounded off the loss in October of 2023, and she's won 2 more fights since then.
38 years old.
Some years older than Jessica Nery-Plata, who I think is coming up on either 30 or 31. Similar level of experience, but you will notice that Jessica does have a lot less career blemishes than Lourdes does.
It's unfortunate that
Jessica's momentum was stifled because back in 2022, she was on some hell of a run. A win over then-champion Jessica Bopp, a win over then-champion Kim Clavel, a win over unbeaten Sarah Borman, and only one fight away from becoming this division's undisputed champion if a fight between her and Evelyn Bermudez would have materialized, but it didn't.
That's a shame.
So, provided that she can get in a fight in between now and the time that she faces Lourdes Juarez, I like her chances. Lourdes is fighting in March. Against who? I don't know. That's Jessica's opportunity to make up for lost time, because you don't want to go into this thing having not fought in over a year.
We went to His Excellency's house at 2 o'clock in the morning and gave him the options. He went with Padley because Padley beat his guy, Mark Chamberlain, on Riyadh season. And we got in touch with Steffi Ball and Tom Stalker, and we made a deal that will give Josh Padley a shot at the world title, and more importantly, a new house.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's what it's all about. Riyadh season, once again, changing lives on many different levels.
A house, a whole goddamn house. That even if Josh Padley loses on Saturday, like everybody's expecting him to in the greater scheme of things, he's still a winner in his own right for taking on this fight on such short notice.
You think Turkey's paying him that much?
You know he is. To salvage Saturday's show and ensure that Shakur Stevenson makes an appearance, he's willing to pay to play. That's what he's known for.
So Turkey picked this guy, not Shakur.
That's the story, according to Eddie Hearn. A Twitter user that goes by the name Romad245 said, "Thanks for posting this, bro. Now people can stop the dumb narratives that Shakur ducked the other fighter."
What other fighter?
Some Cuban with a really bad haircut, supposed to be a semi-solid fighter. The narratives had already started that Shakur Stevenson avoided him by fighting Josh Padley. Ridiculous, I know, but it never takes these people very long.
What people?
Content creators like Boxing Ego, who don't rely on their boxing knowledge to produce content so much as narratives. They spin themselves. He said when Tank Davis lost Rolly as a pay-per-view opponent, Isaac Pitbull Cruz was brought in to replace him. When Shakur Stevenson lost the Prospect and Floyd Schofield as a pay-per-view opponent, Joshua Padley was brought in to replace him. Levels.
And that's what they usually do. Remove all the context, why don't you? When Rolly Romero withdrew from the Gervonta Davis fight, it was 3 weeks. 3 weeks out from the fight. This was only 3 or 4 days.
Nowhere near as much time to make a decision.
They were literally pulling names out of a hat when it comes to Saturday's fight, whereas when Rolly withdrew from the Gervonta Davis fight, Isaac Cruz was already there, set to box on the undercard.
But I'll tell you something. For whining about who Shakur Stevenson fights on short notice as a means to establish Gervonta as the superior fighter, why don't you just advocate that they fight? Why don't you just make videos about that?
Advocate for that.
Instead of this Cold War Gervonta Davis's fans like to have with everybody else, trying to establish him as a better fighter than all of his contemporaries without him proving it, without him fighting them. Instead of these cross comparisons, why don't you just push for them to fight?
They don't want them to fight.
Not the content creators, not the guys that make a buck spinning these yarns, these narratives. No, I'm convinced that guys like Boxing Ego don't actually want Gervonta Davis to fight Shakur Stevenson because they don't want to relive what happened with Spence.
The embarrassment.
They don't want to relive what happened with Wilder.
The embarrassment.
Because when you make a profit talking about how great these guys are, in the absence of those fights jeopardize your livelihood. So you don't actually want them to materialize. You make more money from those fights not happening.
Fights like a Shakur Stevenson fight.
And that's why you won't see content creators like Boxing Ego advocating for the fight, pushing for it, putting pressure on Gervonta to just nut up and fight the guy.
He doesn't want them to fight. He would rather do this.
So if what you thought is that Eddie Hearn letting it be known that it wasn't Shakur Stevenson that chose Josh Padley, it was Turkey El Sheikh.
He picked him.
If you thought that was going to silence Shakur's critics, you're wrong. The criticism is the hustle. The criticisms for those content creators like Boxing Ego, that's the grift.
That's what they're selling, the narratives.
You might have noticed in the last 24 hours an uptick of individuals criticizing Shakur Stevenson for something that isn't his fault. It's not his fault Floyd Schofield pulled out. It's not his fault he's now fighting Josh Padley.
He didn't pick that guy.
3 or 4 days notice and you're attacking him for something that's outside of his control.
You know why the content creators are doing it? Like I said, that's their grift. That's their racket.
And the fans?
They're doing it for different reasons. Some of the hate that Shakur Stevenson gets is because some people don't like his base style. I don't. Pure boxers are not my cup of tea. And some people don't like him because of that. Other people don't like him because they like somebody else.
Gervonta Davis.
Some people don't like Shakur for the simple fact that he wants to fight Gervonta Davis.
It's really not your father's era of boxing when you've got these hypersensitive fans running around so protective of their favorite boxer, taking it as a personal attack that one boxer wants to box another.
I saw a recent quote from Gervonta Davis. Took me by surprise. Gervonta said, "I'd be open to fight Devin Haney. He just has to redeem himself. It'll be a good fight for sure."
You think he's serious?
You know that this time I actually think he might be, and here's why. You wait good up until the guy leaves your division, leaves your weight class, moves up to 140. Now he's on his way to 147, and now is when you talk about fighting him. Now is when you warm up to that idea. Why?
Weight stipulations. You want to stick weight stipulations on him. You know he can't make 135 anymore. He hasn't made it in over a year.
And you know he's not going to be making 140 pounds anymore. You know he's not going to be making that moving forward, and that's where you want to fight him. At a weight that you feel he can no longer make, so that you can cripple him, so that you can weaken him.
That's it.
With weight stipulations.
For that reason, I think that Gervonta Davis might actually be serious this time about fighting Devin Haney because that ship has sailed.
Such a bitch.
When so much of who you are, or who you're supposed to be as a fighter, relies on these kinds of shenanigans, are you even really a good fighter? Are you?
What are you looking at Devin for anyway? Shakur is right there. If you want to fight somebody, fight him. You've got a belt, so does he. It'll be the first unification match of your entire career.
I understand we often spend a lot of time talking about the fights that Gervonta Davis never had, the Devin Haney fight being one among them, the Teofimo Lopez fight being another, and the Lomachenko fight being another.
But it's too late. All of those fighters left your division.
You didn't want to fight any of them when they were there, so if you start talking about fighting them now, it's very obvious why. You want to stick weight stipulations on them.
Well, you don't need weight stipulations for Shakur.
That's the problem. He doesn't want to fight anybody on an even terrain, on an even playing field, when they're 100% or at least close to 100%. That's not what he wants.
Such a bitch.
And that's why I'm hoping that he makes good on his word, that he's going to bow out from the sport this year. I hope he does retire. I think the entire landscape will be better off for it, and not having to deal with the mouth breathers his fan base is comprised of.
Cowards.
Because if he's the poster child for anything, he's the poster child for that. For degenerates, for cowards.
Garbage.
Garbage doesn't need a poster child. Only thing you're supposed to do with garbage is take it out. And finally, in men's heavyweight news, Daniel Dubois is ruled out for Joseph Parker fight, and Martin Bakole will stand in his place.
It's been a roller coaster of emotions the last hour, 2 hours, when news broke that Daniel became ill and he may not be able to fight. Now, he's not going to fight.
Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Daniel Dubois has withdrawn from his heavyweight title fight against Joseph Parker with an unknown illness. Promoter Ben Shalom has said, with Martin Bakole stepping in as his replacement. It was reported Dubois was being checked by a doctor, but the nature of the illness has not been disclosed. Dubois' promoter, Frank Warren, then confirmed at Thursday's news conference that Dubois was unwell. The London-born fighter was not in attendance at the conference. Shalom then told Sky Sports that Bakole has filled Dubois' place.
So that makes 2 fighters that have had to withdraw from this weekend show due to an undisclosed illness. Is it food poisoning or is it the flu?
Were we too hard on the Schofields for withdrawing from the Shakur Stevenson fight?
Not really.
All the accusations that Floyd's father was making in a build-up of the fight are a big part of the reason so many people came at them.
It's in the past now. It doesn't matter.
Daniel is being evaluated by a doctor, and when we have more news, we will share it with you and update you, Frank Warren said, Parker responded to the news by saying he was ready to fight regardless of the opponent. If he is ill, I hope he gets better soon, the New Zealander said. I'm looking forward to Saturday and putting on a great show. Bakole, 21-1 with 16 KOs, is flying in from the Democratic Republic of the Congo to Riyadh to fight Parker.
Salvation!
The 33-year-old's stock has risen with recent wins over American heavyweight Jared Anderson and Carlos Takam.
The old saying goes, you stay ready so that you don't have to get ready, and Martin Bakole is proof of that. We haven't seen him since August of last year when he trounced Jared Anderson on the undercard of Crawford versus Madrimov.
So up until this point, Martin Bakole's name was attached to an IBF final eliminator with Nigeria's own Efe Ajagba. Participating on this show this weekend essentially means he won't be going through with that.
This fight might pay better than that one.
It might because the event coordinators were in a tough spot. Another withdrawal, and what they want to be a very, very big show. Find someone that's in keeping with the decorum.
That makes for just as good a fight as the Dubois fight would have been.
Yes, I think they compensated Martin fairly well for taking on this fight on short notice, and credit to Joseph Parker for taking the fight on short notice. I guess the only drawback is that in fighting Martin, he won't get the chance to become a two-time heavyweight champion, but being honest, I don't think it was going to work out anyway. I had Daniel Dubois stopping Joseph Parker.
So even if this fight he's having with Martin ain't for a belt, I don't think he was going to win one anyway.
Is this in any way, shape, or form a more winnable fight than the Daniel Dubois fight would have been? I'm really not sure. I haven't had time to think about it, to process it. All of this has taken place in a matter of hours.
My initial reaction is that this is just as, if not a more dangerous fight than the Dubois fight would have been.
For Joseph Parker, for the customer, it's just as intriguing. It's just as good a fight. I love it. And you wonder why so many people in boxing are singing Turkey LL Sheik's praises. In 1 minute, a big fight falls apart, and in the next, the very next, he puts together another one. You gotta love this guy.
Keeps the momentum going, the excitement going.
Because I gotta be honest, when I heard that Daniel Dubois may not be able to fight, that was a major buzzkill.
So what this means
is that since Martin is fighting on this weekend's show, he likely won't be fighting Efe Ajagba in that IBF final eliminator, so Efe is going to have to find someone else to fight.
That's one.
2, since Daniel Dubois isn't fighting this weekend, maybe he can move straight into an Alexander Usyk rematch for Undisputed.
That's 2.
It was originally reported that Usyk would be facing the winner of this weekend's fight because whoever the winner was would be IBF champion, whether it was Joseph or Daniel. But now that there's no title on the line in this weekend's fight,
I don't think he faces the winner. I don't think he faces Joseph or Martin. I think what they'll do now is move to make the Usyk versus Dubois rematch in either the spring, late spring, or summer months for Undisputed.
That's how you can salvage that situation.
Usyk stated he only has 2 more fights left in him before he decides to call it a career.
Fighting for Undisputed one more time was on that list.
Makes for a great fight, great rematch down the line.
Professionalism. That's the word that immediately comes to mind when I think about how Martin was ready to step in at a moment's notice.
Professionalism.
With a bit of luck. Luck in and of itself is often described as when preparation meets opportunity. The opportunity presented itself because who anticipated that Daniel Dubois would fall ill just 2 or 3 days out from the fight?
I didn't.
So that when he does, if you've been doing what you have to do, staying ready should the phone ring.
When it does, you're on the first flight to Saudi!
Another big bag, another Riyadh season appearance, another big opportunity.
That's what professionalism gets you.
I'm really looking forward to this weekend's card.